Hello, how are you doing? Welcome to my Authentic Confidence Toolkit Part 3. We're doing the inner child letter, inner child photo and drawing, and inner critic nighttime exercise. Most of us can trace the origins of our low confidence back to childhood. The cause of us first feeling low in confidence was either from one life-shaking experience like loss, bullying, an accident, a medical procedure, or from multiple experiences over time, such as having a parent or family member belittle us, criticize us, ignore us, or make us feel not good enough. Many of us experience low self-confidence because we were unable to process our challenging emotional experiences in a healthy way. We learned to suppress our emotions and that it wasn't safe to feel or to be seen expressing our feelings, because we all come into the world as our true authentic selves, and over time we realize or learn that it's not safe for us to be ourselves, so we create roles, masks, and like a false self in order to hide our true self. Many human beings are living at the emotional age of the times when they first experienced their challenges, because they were unable to emotionally digest, and safely move through what happened to them. So, when we're eating and drinking, we have to digest our physical food. Well, it's the same with our emotions. When we have experienced a challenging emotion, we really need time, space, patience, and encouragement to digest our emotional experiences too. If we've been made to feel bad, sad, angry, if we don't digest our emotions, our emotional experiences, and move through them in a healthy way, then this can cause us physical problems, emotional and mental challenges later on in life. And many human beings have not had the space or the opportunity to digest their emotions, their emotional experiences. So many human beings are living at the emotional age that they experience their challenging emotional circumstances at, that age that they faced traumatic experiences, challenges, whatever it was, the bullying, the belittling, whatever it was, the accident, the medical procedure, whatever it was in life. So inner child work is really powerful. It's a really powerful way that we can jumpstart our emotional maturity by feeling our feelings. To do this, we must create the optimum environment for us to feel safe, to feel our feelings, because to feel is to heal. When we start to feel our feelings and move through our feelings, it's not easy, but it's worth it, because we have been perhaps conditioned that it's not safe to feel our feelings, it's scary to feel our feelings because it's painful. But actually, avoiding feeling our feelings is what put us in this low self-confidence place in the first place, right? So one of my favorite tools to use is the inner child letter. It's one of my favorite inner child exercises to do. So if you don't have a piece of paper handy, go and grab one just now, because we're going to have a go at this inner child letter. So I use this to communicate with my inner child, and I teach my clients to use this exercise to communicate with the inner child. And we can communicate with our inner child using our non-dominant hand to reply to those letters. So we're going to play with this. We're going to, on a piece of paper, on your journal or whatever it is you're writing on, we're going to write a letter to our childhood self. It may seem a bit silly, it may seem weird, it may seem strange, but it works. It really works. It helps us to feel. It might be difficult to feel to begin with, and that's why it's worth persisting with this exercise. So we're going to play with it. We're going to play with this at first. We're going to keep it light so that we can build up our relationship with our inner child and trust our childhood self, and so that our childhood self can trust our now self, right? Especially if we've experienced bullying or we were shamed in any way in life growing up, it may take a little time, patience, and some back and forth to see the benefit of doing this exercise. So start with your dominant hand, whatever you hand to use to write with. We're going to write a letter to the inner child. So I want you to write, dear, your name, right? So I would write, dear Iona, dear, your name. And then we're going to write, how are you? Dear, like we're writing a letter to a loved one. because we are. Dear, your name, how are you today? How are you today? Question mark. How are you today? Question mark. I'm really looking forward to getting to know you. I am really looking forward to getting to know you. I am really looking forward to getting to know you. And then we're going to ask the question, what is your favorite color? What is your favorite color? What is your favorite color? And then we're going to ask the question, what do you like to eat? What do you like to eat? What do you like to eat? And then we're going to ask the question, do you have a favorite toy or game that you like to play? Do you have a favorite toy or game you like to play? Do you have a favorite toy or game you like to play? And then close the letter with lots of love and then finish with your name. So I would say lots of love, Iona. Lots of love, Iona. And then either on the same page beneath it, or you can take a new page for this. We're going to use your non-dominant hand. So whatever hand you use the opposite to write with, right? So if you're right-handed, we're going to use your left hand. If you're left-handed, we're going to use your right hand. So your non-dominant hand, we're going to reply. We're going to write a reply answering the questions. It's not difficult. It's not easy to write with your non-dominant hand, which you will discover. It's tricky. It's tricky to write with your non-dominant hand. And this is what we want. Because remember when you were learning to write and it wasn't easy? When we first learn or first try feeling or feel our feelings, that's not easy either. So we want to do something that we're going to struggle with a little bit, because what that does is it takes us out of our regular critical thought patterns. This exercise using our non-dominant hand helps us to access different parts of the brain, and it helps us also get into the mindset of our younger self. So write, dear your name. Write dear Iona, dear whatever your name is. I would write dear Iona, and then with your non-dominant hand, you're going to answer those questions that we just asked. So, dear, my name. I am fine. I am okay. Whatever you feel you want to write with your non-dominant hand as a reply to how are you today? How are you today? And then you can write a reply to the statement that I'm really looking forward to getting to know you, like our older self said, or you can ignore it depending on how you feel. What's your favorite color? What is your favorite color? What's your younger version's self favorite color? My favorite color is, write that with your non-dominant hand. My favorite color is blue, red, pink, purple, orange, yellow. My favorite colors are orange, green, and yellow, and turquoise. What do you like to eat? I like to eat pizza, or I like to eat oranges. I like to eat grapes. I like to eat whatever your younger version of you likes to eat. We're going to write that down with your non-dominant hand in reply. Do you have a favorite toy or game you like to play? Have a tap in. What favorite toy or game does your younger self like to play? What did they like to play back in the day? If you want to tap into this, to really feel into this, you can. Remember in the last one, we were talking about tapping in, where you close your eyes, place your hand in the center of your chest and take a nice deep breath in and out. And really feel into what the answer is. So what was your favorite toy or game to play? My favorite game to play is houses with my dolls and teddies. And then you can write lots of love, your name, to close off the letter. When we do this several times, each time we reply to the younger self with our dominant hand, we say something kind and positive, right? To validate and see that younger version of us, like, I love that, or you are amazing, or I am so proud of you. And once you feel comfortable to do so, you can also ask your younger self how they are feeling. Our goal here is to create a safe space for our younger self to express how they really feel. Because it is your job as your older self, your now self, to give your younger self the support, the space, and the validation around what and how they are feeling now. It's their job. It's no one else's job to do that. Now is the perfect opportunity for you to see your younger version, your younger self, and give them the things that they perhaps didn't get at the time when they were little. In the moments, it's your job now to do that. And this can really, really help with our self-confidence, especially if we can give them the support, the space, and the validation, because that's all children want, is love, acceptance, support, space, and validation. Validation being validating their thoughts and feelings, not shutting them down, not minimizing, not dismissing them, not telling them that they're bad or wrong, not shaming them. Shaming, dismissing, shutting down, minimizing, dismissing, devalidating is harming to children and our inner child. Whenever we emotionally harm ourselves, like talking down to ourselves, minimizing our emotions, it's the inner child that feels it. So when we do this exercise, especially daily for between 10 and 20 minutes a day, the more you practice with your non-dominant hand, the easier it gets, so the quicker it gets as well. You become ambidextrous. And this is really powerful for using the other parts of your brain that you perhaps haven't accessed. Because when you're using your dominant hand, you are using pathways that are well-trodden neural pathways in the brain. But when we're using our non-dominant hand, it actually opens up possibilities and new pathways in the brain. It's fascinating. Handwriting is so powerful. If you're here for the first one, and I spoke about the reticular activating system in the brain and how powerful handwriting actually is to transform our self-confidence, to bring up stuff that we've perhaps had embedded within our system for a very long time, to move through it, and then to go on and do and be and feel more confident, feel better. It's really fun. I love it. Doing this daily can really help us to mature our emotions. It can really help to mature our inner child that's within us, right? Because we all have an inner child. Our emotional age is the age at which we first experienced our most, traumatic experiences in life. First traumatic experiences, whether that's a big thing or multiple smaller things. This increases our authentic self-confidence too, because we may feel emotions coming up to the surface, and we may feel the need to cry. I highly encourage you to allow that to happen, to allow the emotions to come up and to cry. Crying is normal, expected, and healthy. And it's also a really powerful way, crying is a really powerful way that the body can process difficult, challenging memories or emotions. So when we cry, there's so much scientific studies done for crying, how there are chemicals in our tears that when we cry, our bodies reabsorb those chemicals and they make us feel better, like feel good chemicals. Whenever we cry, we are moving the energy through and out of our bodies, like it's an energy movement. And there's loads of other stuff as well. I would recommend, if you are interested in, if you've ever been shamed for crying or felt bad about crying or feel like you have a problem crying, then I would recommend taking some time and researching on the benefits of crying, because it is so powerful, so beneficial. And we have been shamed for crying because the person who observed us crying, perhaps they themselves were shamed and our crying made them feel uncomfortable. So it was never about us crying. It's about them and how we made them feel when they were observing us crying. Okay. So we also want to let the inner child feel and say what they want, right? That's the goal. The goal is to get them to express themselves, our inner child to express themselves through using the non-dominant hand to write. And when they do, we have to validate them. We have to validate our inner child. We have to remind them of how special, safe, and protected they are because you are their safe space now, right? You are their safe space. So this exercise is really, really powerful for increasing our self-confidence at our core, right? Our core wounds, our core challenges, our childhood stuff that we have kept locked in for so long that's affecting our daily confidence. This is such a powerful tool, as is the next one that I'm going to show you. So the next one is the inner child photo or drawing, which I also, again, use with my clients. I love using this exercise because it really transforms our self-confidence, again, at our core, the core of our being. Like the letter, this allows us to open up a healing and supportive dialogue with the inner child who perhaps has never experienced one with anyone ever before. Perhaps our inner child, perhaps we have never ever had the opportunity, we've never been shown, we've never had the chance to have open up a healing and supportive dialogue with anyone. And once we start, it's really wonderful. It's a really beautiful thing to have, because it also encourages others to do the same. And I feel like the world will be a much more pleasant place to live in if people felt safer to have healing and supportive dialogues with each other without being judged or criticized or without being defensive. So this tool is best used with a photo of yourself as a young child from toddler to primary school age. If you don't have access to a photo, I highly recommend that you find a photo, but if for any reason that you don't have access to a photo, then you can draw a picture of yourself at a young age. This drawing can be any quality. It can even be a stick figure if you want to. It can be a stick figure. But as long as your mind can tell that it's you, as long as your subconscious mind can recognize that this is a picture of you, if you're drawing yourself as a stick figure and you put in your, something that you know is yours. Like when I was little and I used to draw myself as a stick figure, because I've always worn a ponytail, I would always draw myself with a ponytail. And in that way that my subconscious mind could recognize that's me, tall, long limbs, ponytail. That's how I recognize myself as a drawing. But this is why I recommend using a photo first before you do any drawing, because photos have more of an emotional energy around them and attached to them. I'm going to just I've got some photos of me. I'm just going to really quickly grab one so I can show you. This one is of me when I was maybe 2 or 3 years old. And I put this up on my mirror. It's me in the snow with my hat on and my red nose. And I don't look very like I've just had a cry or something. I'm not looking very. Put your photo up somewhere where you can see it regularly, and we begin a dialogue of affirming with ourselves, right? And again, like the letter, it can feel weird when we first start to do this work because we've never done it before, and we are, especially as women, taught to not like ourselves. We're taught that if you love yourself or like yourself, that's conceited or narcissistic, but actually the relationship with the self is the most important relationship that we will ever have. So this work is really, really important. It's really powerful, and it is life-changing. Like I would love if you have been a client of mine, or you are a client of mine, or you use this technique that I've taught you at one of the classes we've had previously. I would love for you to share in the comments that if this tool, this exercise has in fact helped you feel more confident, because I know that it has personally, but it's also really nice to hear from other people how they find this exercise. So we want to affirm some things to this photograph, and the things that we want to affirm to this photo is, you write these down. I'll repeat them a couple of times. Things like, I am so glad you were born. I am so glad you were born. And when you say that to yourself, it's like, it can be really powerful, like really emotional, because many of us, especially if we've been struggling with low self-confidence, low self-esteem, and poor self-concept, right? Self-concept is what you think about yourself. If we've had a negative self-concept, low self-esteem, low self-confidence most of our lives, we kind of sometimes wish that we weren't here, or that we question why we're here. We question our existence, and we tell ourselves, when we look at our photograph or look in the mirror, like on Friday I was talking about mirror work. When you look at yourself in the mirror or look at yourself in a photo and say, I'm so glad you were born, it's like you've been hit with this like this heavy weight. It's hard to believe, but we practice, right? I'm so glad you were born. The next one is you can feel safe with me. You can feel safe with me. That feels really like relieving to hear, to feel. You can feel safe with me. That feels really nice to say that to yourself. I want to feel safe with me because I want others to feel safe with me. But how can I ask other people to feel safe with me if I don't feel safe with myself? You know? The next one is I love and accept you. I love and accept you. And again, if you have struggled with low confidence, low self-esteem, and a negative self-concept for a long time, saying things like that, I love and accept you, can feel weird. It can feel really like tight and untrue. And that's why this is so important to practice consistently. I love and accept you. You can also say, all your feelings are safe with me. All your feelings are safe with me. All feelings, right? And this is a general statement. All feelings are not bad or wrong. Our feelings, whatever feelings you feel, whether that be anger, shame, disgust, guilt, loss, any happiness, excitement, all emotions are not bad or wrong. They're there for a reason. They are there to tell us something. The emotions feel painful because if they didn't, we wouldn't notice them. We wouldn't know they were there. So the fact that, and many of us as well, because we have low self-confidence, low self-esteem, the origins of that can go back to us being shamed for having feelings, for having big feelings. We've been made to feel bad or made to feel shamed for being angry, for being bad, right? Because anger, when we're little, especially little girls, oh no, you can't be angry. When we affirm all your feelings are safe with me, that means that this little human being, for the first time in their life, perhaps, maybe has the opportunity to be angry, right? They have a right to be angry for any reason, or guilty or sad or ashamed or whatever it is. We're allowing them to feel their feelings, and that's really powerful. And the next thing you could affirm to the photo would be, you are a good person. You are a good person. You are a good person. Oh, that's another one that feels heavy and maybe a little bit twisty, a little bit inside, a little bit untrue. Because if we've been shamed or made to feel bad, made to be bad, or made to feel like we're wrong, fundamentally flawed, we don't believe that we're a good person. Perhaps we've been told that we're not a good person. We've been made to believe that we're not a good person. Or perhaps we've done things in the past that we regret. We've made mistakes in the past, and we believe that because we've made mistakes, we're not a good person. But when you look at this little person, this little human being, they are a good person. Like they're not born into the world knowing how to human. They get taught how to human by observing the actions of other people around them and learn from that. Children don't do what you say, they do what you do. So when we were little, we were observing the actions of others around us and doing what they were doing. So if we've made any mistakes in the past and then we're condemned or punished for it, we perhaps feel like we're bad people. But actually, this little human being is a good person at their core. They were just trying their best. They were only doing things because they had observed other people doing it, or thought that they had to do that to keep themselves safe. And then the next one that you might say, I love who you are, and I'm always doing my best to be by your side. I love who you are, and I'm always doing my best to be by your side. I love who you are, and I'm always doing my best to be by your side. Think back to when you were little and the things that you did, like the things that you loved, right? The playing, the fun, the giggles, the summer holidays, right? The festive holidays, and how you were able to find little pockets of joy sometimes in life. Sometimes it was difficult and you struggled and bad things happened, but sometimes you were able to find pockets of joy and contentment and fun and excitement. That's who you are. That's who you are at your core. This joy, this fun, and this excitement. When you affirm to your photo, your little self, your younger self, that you are always doing your best to be by their side, it feels like relief again. I don't know about you, but when I tap into that feeling, it feels like, it's relief. Like this person loves who I am. and they want to be around me no matter what I do or what I say, no matter what happens. And that feels really good. That feels like relief. That feels like, oh, because for a very long time, the opposite was true. I thought I had to be and do and have certain things in order for people to like me and be around me, which affected my confidence. Now, looking at this photo of me, this little younger version of me, I'm able to like breathe a sigh of relief. That actually, this version of me, this older version of me, actually loves who I am, and that they will do their best to be by my side no matter what. Which leads into the next phrase that you might want to use, which is, you don't need to be perfect to get my love and affection. You don't need to be perfect to get my love and affection. You don't need to be perfect to get my love and affection, which is phenomenal to feel that, to know that, because we have been conditioned to be perfectionists, that we have to be perfect. We're not allowed to make mistakes. We have to be people pleasers. We have to make sure that everyone else is doing okay. And that if we're not perfect, then that means we're not lovable, we're not good enough, that we're unworthy of love and affection. And that is not true. We can affirm right now that we can be our messy, flawed, mistake-making, effing things up selves and still be worthy of love and affection. How wonderful does that feel? Like, how, again, it's relieving, it's satisfying, and it's relieving to know that we can be, that I love the fact I can sit on a live video without makeup on, in my comfy Sunday clothes, and still feel worthy of love, affection, attention, everything that I want in life. I don't need makeup on to feel confident. That's a whole other thing. And I feel safe to be seen just as my true authentic self. This little girl here at 4 years old, 3 or 4 years old, she didn't wear makeup she didn't have to be perfect to be worthy of love and attention and affection. So what's the difference? The next one is, I am always glad to see you. I am always glad to see you. I am always glad to see you. And again, that feels like relief, because knowing that someone is always glad to see us is a really beautiful feeling. When someone is so glad to have us around and to see us, that feels like such a lovely feeling. And that can be you. That can be you for your younger self, that you're always glad to see that photo. You're always glad to see that photo of you. You're not going to shame them. You're not going to guilt trip them. You're not going to punish them or condemn them or make them feel wrong or bad or flawed. You're just going to accept them, and you're really glad to see them. You're really glad to see them, always. And then we've got 3 left on this list. So the next one is, you can make mistakes. They are your teachers. You can make mistakes. They are your teachers. You can make mistakes. They are your teachers. Making mistakes, it happens in school. It starts in school. Like, we get punished for making mistakes. We're not allowed to make mistakes. Mistakes mean that we are the bottom of the class. Mistakes mean that we are shamed. Mistakes mean that we're bad. But that's not true. Mistakes are so powerful. Mistakes are so helpful. When I was a teacher, I worked in universities and colleges teaching fashion design, and I had my own company, I had my own business teaching sewing. I worked as a creative therapist, and that was my main media that I used to teach, to do the therapy, was sewing, hand sewing. And I encouraged my clients and my pupils to make as many mistakes as they could, especially when they were in my company around me, because mistakes are so powerful. Mistakes teach us our biggest lessons. When you make a mistake, you're less likely to do it again, right? because the frustration of making a mistake, the frustration of not doing the right thing, is such a powerful tool. And when we can use mistakes for what they really are, which is our teachers, which is for learning lessons, then we're less likely to beat up on ourselves. Yeah, okay, if we're like time limited and we make a mistake, that can be really annoying, really frustrating. But shaming ourselves for being bad or wrong is not helpful, and it's not healthy. I have a friend who is teaching herself how to sew right now, and she's doing really, really well. She's been asking me for help, and I'm absolutely thrilled to help her, because I've been telling her I was telling her to start to sew for years, to start sewing, because I knew she'd love it. So she's finally done it. She's asking me for advice, and she says that, oh, it was so annoying. I did this thing and I got it wrong. And I said, oh, okay, well, what was your inner dialogue? What were you telling yourself? And she said that she was really vicious to herself. And I found that really interesting. Like when we make mistakes, we tend to be really vicious to ourselves and abusive to ourselves. How is that benefiting us? Does that stop us from making mistakes again? No, we're always going to make mistakes. It creates heavy feelings. It creates a spiral, like a downward spiral towards more of the same. Yeah, okay, making mistakes is frustrating. Let's feel the feelings. Let's feel the annoyance and the frustration of making the mistake. Take from it the lesson that we have learned. Like my friend who was sewing, she stitched something on the wrong way, had to unpick it, and then re-sew it back on. And I said to her, well, what was the lesson that you learned? And she was like, to check things before I stitch them in place. And I'm like, yep. She was like, I thought it was saving time by not checking it, but actually I've just added more time onto the job because I have to go back and redo it. And I'm like, yep, that is the perfect lesson right there. Like, check it so you don't have to go back and redo it. So you can make mistakes. They are your teachers. The second last one is you can have your own preferences and tastes. You can have your own preferences and tastes. You can have your own preferences and tastes. For many of us as little people, we're not allowed to have our own preferences and tastes. We have to do what our grown-ups or our caregivers are doing. We have to like what they're doing. Life is easier for us if we just like the things that they like. But actually, you have your own preferences and tastes. That little person, they have their own preferences and tastes. It is safe for them to have their own preferences and tastes. This is why the world is such a beautiful place, is because of the different tastes and preferences that people have. It makes it such a diverse and beautiful, interesting place to be. And then the last one, and the most important one I find, is the saying, I am very proud of you. I am very proud of you. I am very proud of you, because many of us have never been told that. We've never been told that anyone's proud of us. So start telling it to yourself. Start telling it to that younger version of you. I'm sure they need to hear it. I'm sure that they will absolutely benefit greatly from hearing that another person, an older person, a person that they will look up to, is proud of them. And we can also use these phrases when we're doing the inner child letter too. So remember when I said to say something when we're replying with our dominant hand, when we're replying to the inner child, to say something positive, affirm something positive, you might want to use these phrases in that as well. So this tool, this inner child photo or drawing exercise, allows us to create a safe space to have compassion, patience, acceptance, warmth, and nurturement for our inner child, who perhaps grew up feeling lonely, powerless, not good enough, and unworthy or unlovable. And as we do this exercise over time, we may want to replace the photo with an older version of ourselves from high school and adolescence into our 20s, 30s, and so on. Because you will find that every version of yourself really appreciates the attention, the care, and the validation that we're giving them. Like I have two photos here. I have one here of me at age 11 or 12. Then I have another one here of age 15 or 16. And I'm constantly doing the work, talking to them, validating them, making them feel seen and safe, and powerful and loved and accepted and appreciated. This tool can be extremely powerful at creating the biggest leaps in our self-confidence, because it takes courage. It takes courage to see ourselves as who we really are. And who we really are is who you really are, is a beautiful, intelligent, special being who just wants to be loved and accepted. Every human being on this planet just wants to be loved and accepted, which takes me on to the last tool for this evening, tool number 3, which is the inner critic nighttime exercise. The inner critic nighttime exercise. The relationship with the self is the most important relationship that we will ever have. And the relationship with ourself is based on the relationships that were modeled to us. So how we talk and treat ourselves is usually how our caregivers spoke to themselves, each other, and us. Every one of us has a voice that exists within us, a negative, criticizing voice. This voice is the inner critic, and it's made up of every hurtful, or negative thing that was ever said to us or deduced by us because of what we did or didn't do growing up, like our failures and our shame. And for those of us with low self-confidence, this voice can be the most active at nighttime when we're trying to sleep. When you're lying in bed and this inner critic starts like rambling on, reminding us of all the things that we did or didn't do, reminds us of our shame, reminds us of our failures. To do this exercise, we sit down as if we're going for a nap. If we nap seated, or we're going to bed, going to sleep, and in our mind, we list out 10 positive things that happened that day or week, and we have to count 10 things. And it's really, really powerful to do this because it takes us again out of that critical thinking mind and into our imagination and into our feelings, into our emotions. For many of us, it's not safe to be in our bodies. It's not safe to be in our feelings and our emotions. We've popped out. We exist in our critical thinking mind. So this exercise is a really good opportunity for us to come back from our critical thinking mind back into our feelings and our emotions and feel safe to be there, feel safe to exist there, because this is the place where we feel confident from. Right? We don't feel confident from up here, from our head. We feel confident. True, authentic confidence comes from our core, comes from our being, comes from our emotional body and our physical body. We need our mental body, yes, to make decisions and think critically, yeah. But actually, when we feel confident, it's a feeling, it's an emotion, it's a power coming from within the core of our beings. So if we've had a particularly challenging day or week, we might want to think about things that have happened in our month or a year or a decade if we're really struggling. So say, for example, if you can't think of anything that happened that was positive that happened that day or that week, we think about the year or the month of the year or the decade. And it has to be simple pleasures and appreciations. It can be occasions, fun things that happen, achievements, but it works best when it's just simple pleasures and appreciations. And I've written down 10 here. There's 10 simple pleasures and appreciations that we can think of if the inner critic chimes in when we're going to sleep. So number 1 is an enjoyable piece of music. If you can think and remember that enjoyable piece of music. Number 2 is a tasty meal or snack, something that you ate that was really delicious. Like today, earlier, I had this amazing juice, orange juice from some Seville oranges. It was so good. And number 3 is a chat with a friend. Perhaps you had a really beautiful, interesting conversation with someone, or you just simply spoke to someone that you've not spoken to in a while. And number 4 is a hug with your pet or child. For all my animal lovers out there, and also everyone who's got kids, really having that moment of affection and loving affection and holding that being in your own energy is so beautiful. And if you can think of doing that, or think of a time when that happened, that absolutely takes us out of our inner critic chatter. The next one, number 5, is the kindness of a stranger. So human beings, there's a good mix of human beings on this planet. There are human beings who are kind and loving, and there's human beings who are not so much. And when our inner critic chimes in at nighttime, it can remind us of the not so nice human beings. But a really good thing to do to shift out of that mindset is to think of the kindness of human beings, of the lovingness of human beings. Especially if a complete and utter stranger complimented you or held a door open for you during the day. That's really helpful to take us out of our inner critic thinking thoughts. And the next one is a satisfying color, thinking about something that you saw, the sky, the color of the sky, the color of a plant or flower, or an item of clothing that you saw. Thinking about colors, remembering colors, is a really powerful tool to bring us out of our critical thinking mind, our inner critic. Sounds, just like the piece of music. What about other sounds that you enjoy, like birds, the sound of bird song, or the sound of a child laughing, or maybe there's a really cute sound that a pet makes. When my cat is watching the birds, he cheeps. He cheeps at the birds, and it's very cute. Number 8 is a task accomplished. So in your day, during the day, or in the week, Did you accomplish a task that you can think about that has made you feel accomplished, satisfied, or proud? Number 9 is the comfort of your bed or chair. Wherever you are lying or sitting, can you feel comfortable? Can you really allow your body to sink in to that chair or bed and really appreciate the comfort? Appreciate how relaxed your body can feel, and get your body into that relaxed state by feeling the feeling of the blankets. Number 10 is the coolness of your pillow or the softness of your blanket. So 9 and 10 is all about taking your attention from this critical thought and into your physical body, where you can touch and feel and appreciate the sensory things that are happening around you in your bed, like the blanket, how cool the pillow feels, how soft the blanket feels on your skin. Perhaps you're lying next to a loved one, the warmth of their body, the comfort that they provide. So we're really taking our attention away from this critical thought, from our critical thinking mind, into our physical and emotional body, and really appreciating the comfort that that gives us, that brings us. This is really powerful. I highly recommend, even if you're feeling, you don't have to do this at nighttime. I actually do this personally, like when I'm out and about as well. If I start to feel anxious or triggered or something, or I start to experience the critical inner critic chatter, the negative chatter coming from my inner critic, I will take a moment and just start to notice things in my environment, counting things in my environment, or feeling things in my environment, sensory, like using my senses. And that really helps me to come out of that critical thinking thoughts and feelings and panic, and back into my body, back into my emotions. And it creates a little bit of contentment and a little bit of coherence within my system as well. This exercise is really, really powerful because it stops our critical thought and it moves us into appreciation. Appreciation means it increases in value. So doing this will instantly boost our confidence, and especially if practiced over time, this state of appreciation will become more of a baseline for us. So for many of us, our emotional baseline is the harsh inner judgment that keeps our confidence low. But if we practice exercises like this over time, not only will we feel more confident, but more contented with our life experience too, which is so powerful and so wonderful. So like the last ones, I encourage you to set a reminder on your phone for the next couple of days to try each of these things out, like 5 minutes in the morning to try the inner child letter, 5 minutes in the afternoon to try the picture exercise, or even first thing in the morning, you could try the picture exercise, pop it on your bathroom mirror, have that conversation with your inner child, those words of affirmation to support them and encourage them and see them. And in the afternoon, take a moment in your lunchtime to practice the inner child letter. And then at nighttime, try the inner critic nighttime exercise, where we're listing and thinking of positive things that happen to us, bringing us out of our inner critic, critical thinking mind, and back into our physical and emotional body.